Hello, and welcome to Overlooked Headlines. We're the podcast designed to share headlines from America and around the world that have been disregarded or overlooked, but are critical to our lives and well-being. It's our mission to inform with the headlines and then inspire through biblical words, which we call His Lines, that once heard and applied will help to strengthen our faith in God as we navigate this journey called life. Now, here's the host of Overlooked Headlines, Jeff Bass.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Overlooked Headlines. I'm Jeff Bass. Let's check out today's headline breakdown. Study reveals 80% give sleep aids to put their kids to sleep. America's dairy cattle supply continues to slide as farmers breed hybrids to make beefier cows. In this week's In Case You Missed It headline, restaurants and companies hiring virtual cashiers and employees over Zoom. And our top headline, AI now creating digital twins of your personality and habits. And we will close, as always, with His Lines. Here's our first headline. Study reveals 80% give sleep aids to put their kids to sleep. This is from Wine Press News. A new survey reveals that a huge number of American parents across all generations are giving their children sleep aid pharmaceuticals to put them to bed at night. The study, conducted by a sleep doctor, noted in their thesis that the number of young children being given melatonin is skyrocketing. And recently, several daycares have been in the news for drugging kids to get them to sleep, and therefore wanted to know just how pervasive it is among parents to give children these sleep-inducing substances. Surveying 1,201 parents across different age groups in the month of April, Sleep Doctor discovered 79% of parents have given their child a substance for the primary purpose of aiding sleep. 66% of parents have given melatonin. 25% gave it to a child 3 years old or younger, and 35% of parents say they have given Benadryl to get their child to sleep. 20% have given their child prescription sleep aids. Of those polled, 84% of Gen Z and 83% of millennial parents say they are likely or have given a sleep aid to their children. And melatonin is the most commonly administered sleep aid by those that have. Sleep Doctor also reported that the majority of parents, 97%, gave their child melatonin more than once. The plurality of parents, 21%, gave melatonin to their children about 10 times, while 16% gave it about 5 times, 14% about 2 to 3 times, and 3% only once. Further, 13% of parents say they gave melatonin to their child 50 times or more. A board-certified sleep expert said, melatonin has been researched extensively for use in neurodiverse children, those with circadian rhythm disorders, delayed sleep phase syndrome, and jet lag. However, how parents and caregivers are administering unregulated and unprescribed medications to induce sleep in situations including bedtime resistance is not only not indicated, but not recommended by the medical community. He added, the problem with over-the-counter melatonin supplementation is that it is unregulated and often found to contain improper doses of the melatonin hormone. Additionally, not enough studies have been conducted on children to determine the appropriate dose of it and its long-term consequences. It's more optimal for parents to use light modulation to impact sleep onset rather than medications. Of the 20% who give their children a prescription sleep aid, the common ones administered are Ambien, Sonata, or Restoril, and some parents gave these drugs even to their babies and toddlers. 4% gave it to a child under 6 months old, 11% to a child 6 to 11 months old, and 16% to a child 1 to 3 years old. Be that as it may, parents are also implementing a number of other methods to get their children to sleep, such as having bedtime routines, less screen and device time, healthy diet and exercise, a new mattress, and more. The sleep expert said, following the child's sleep cues will ensure they fall asleep when their body is optimized. If a child is woken daily at the same time, they will fall into a better sleep routine for daytime naps and at bedtime. He also suggests the following. Minimize blue light stimulation from devices at least 2 hours before a designated bedtime to help allow the body's natural melatonin production. Ensure also exposure to daylight and sunset to help regulate the child's circadian rhythm. Teach the child to fall asleep independently and use the assistance of a sleep coach to work through troublesome areas of sleep onset. We'll keep our eyes on this headline. Our second headline, America's dairy cattle supply continues to slide to 2-decade low as farmers now breed hybrids to make beefier cows. Earlier this year, the United States Department of Agriculture, known as the USDA, revealed that U.S. beef cattle supplies are at their lowest levels since 1961. Now, Bloomberg is reporting that ranchers are shifting their breeding habits to hybridize their dairy cows to be beefier and what they call heftier, capitalizing on the beef laws and 2023's debilitating milk glut. Bloomberg noted, those hybrid calves created by artificially inseminating a dairy cow with semen from a beef bull are beefier than a pure dairy animal and can fetch the seller hundreds or even thousands of dollars apiece. That's a big payday in an industry that last summer faced such a pronounced milk glut that farmers were forced to dump it down the drain. Milk prices are steadily going up and down, so farmers are always looking for a way to offset costs to be as efficient as possible, said Amy Penterman, the owner of Dutch Dairy, which breeds approximately 70% of its 900 cow milking herd for beef. Penterman added that the new revenue stream is rewarding because the beef supply has diminished over the last few years. We're able to add that extra supply into the market to keep the cost down for our consumers. Bloomberg went on to note, given the depleted beef supply, a week-old hybrid calf can now fetch between $400 to $800, up from $200 a few years ago, Penterman said. Farmers who raise the calves to adulthood can charge even more. A dairy manager in Indiana rears the so-called beef on dairy calves for around 16 months until they are about 1,400 pounds. Those livestock can fetch about $2,500 each, nearing what farmers receive for an actual beef animal. That's far more profitable than raising replacement milking cows, which CoBank estimates in recent years actually lost farmers as much as $900 a heifer. The diversified income stream is a welcome addition for America's dairy producers who struggled when demand and in turn prices fell at the start of the pandemic. Although anxious shoppers were clearing out the milk aisles at grocery stores, that didn't offset the drop in demand from closed restaurants and schools. Farmers had so much excess that they poured milk down the drain, a supply management tool they've had to use again more recently. The breakdown in the supply chain only added to the woes of the U.S. dairy sector, which even before COVID-19 suffered a wave of closures and consolidations following years of low milk prices. The number of dairy farms in the U.S. plummeted about 39% from 2017 to 2022, according to the government's most recent agricultural census. As the dairy industry teeters, demand for red meat remains strong. U.S. consumers eat close to 60 pounds of beef a year. Milk and cheese prices are virtually unchanged from a decade ago. U.S. Department of Agricultural data shows while ground beef prices have climbed more than 35%, touching a record high this past November. Beef prices have just exploded, and it's been fuel on a fire, said Steve Obert, the executive director of Indiana Dairy Producers. 10 years from now, the beef herd's probably going to get too big again, and prices will be terrible. And maybe they don't want these dairy animals anymore. But for the next couple of years, that demand for dairy animals into the beef herd is probably going to stay strong. Nate Donay, the director of Dairy Market Insight at StoneX Financial, said. And we'll be watching that story too. I love a good steak. What about you?
Hey, if you're enjoying this episode, then we'll think you'll love connecting with us on our social media platforms as well, because we post frequent news bites, tips, and alerts to keep you informed and inspired. Now, let's get back to more overlooked headlines with Jeff Bass.
Now, let's turn to this week's In Case You Missed It headline. Restaurants and companies hiring virtual cashiers and employees over Zoom to save money. Again, by the Wine Press News. At San San Chicken in the East Village of Manhattan, a cashier will greet you with a wave and a smile, but they'll be over 8,500 miles away. Instead of a human standing in front of you, you'll instead see a face on a screen, working over video chat all the way from the Philippines. Brett Goldstein, an AI startup founder and owner of Launch House Venture, stumbled upon the restaurant late Saturday night when he was hungry for Japanese fried chicken. He told Fortune, "It's the future of fast food." Quote, "I had this aha feeling of, okay, this makes a lot of sense," he said. Goldstein shared his experience at the chain on X. He said the service was friendly, more so than the average New York cashier. And while he placed his order at a self-service kiosk, the cashier stood by and controlled the restaurant's point of sale system in case he had any questions. After Goldstein was finished placing his order, he had an option to tip the remote cashier. Happy Cashier is the company behind the virtual cashiers, and a spokesperson confirmed that it hires employees from the Philippines to video call into the restaurant. Follow me now. The food was good, Goldstein said, despite his chicken katsu curry setting him back an insane $20. But the real talking point was the impact that virtual cashiers could have on the fast food industry. Put yourself in the shoes of restaurant owners. Minimum wage is going up. Rent is going up. Either they're going to have to increase the cost of the food, which you can only do to an extent, or you can cut costs, he told Fortune. Sansan's virtual cashiers are part of a growing movement of restaurant automation and the introduction of technology that limits the number of human workers in a store at a given time. It's particularly popular in the fast food industry, where companies are looking to grow profit margins in a time of mandates, increasing minimum wages for these workers. They have a clear niche. They're not going to revolutionize their offering, an economics professor at MIT told Fortune. He said, their brand is to provide relatively cheap food so labor costs matter more for them. You see, labor accounts for 36% of an average restaurant's costs, according to March Bank of America note. And using automation to cut down on menial tasks while outsourcing labor to foreign workers could be a way to save some money. Mohammed Rahman, professor of management at the School of Business at Purdue University, told Fortune that hiring virtual workers will cost restaurants like San only 10% of what they would pay in-person cashiers. Rahman said that despite a $3.75 hourly wage, the rate for virtual cashiers in similar restaurant concepts is being a pittance for U.S. workers. It's a substantive amount for workers, however, in other countries. It's just like any other kind of outsourcing, employment lawyer Jonathan Pincus told the Star. He said, if you're sending jobs to people in a different country, you're only obligated to comply with the labor standards of that country. Whether or not foreign workers stand to benefit, outsourcing this work puts fast food restaurants in a precarious position. While virtual workers can be called upon in a time of U.S. labor shortages in the fast food industry, those jobs, however, could just as easily threaten workers looking for those minimum wages. If it displaces workers, especially in the local labor market, from the jobs that were open to them, that would have impacts on their livelihoods and communities, Pincus said. Again, very interesting in case you missed it this week. Stick and stay. I've got more overlooked headlines.
Still to come, our top headline. And don't miss his lines, right here on Overlooked Headlines.
Our top headline: AI now creating digital twins of your personality and habits, sold for profit and replacing workers. An increasing number of startups and corporations are replacing physical workers with what are known as digital twins, generated by AI, nabbing people's physical characteristics, personality traits, and habits, which in turn is quickly displacing lucrative careers and side hustles. In short, according to computing giant IBM, a digital twin is a virtual representation of an object or system designed to reflect a physical object accurately. It spans the object's life cycle, which is updated from real-time data and uses simulation, machine learning, and reasoning to help make decisions. A fundamental change to existing operating models is happening. A digital reinvention is occurring in asset-intensive industries that are changing operating models in a disruptive way, requiring an integrated physical plus digital view of assets, equipment, facilities, and processes. Digital twins are a vital part of that realignment. The future of the digital twins is nearly limitless because increasing amounts of cognitive power are constantly being devoted to their use. So, these digital twins are constantly learning new skills and capabilities, which means they continue to generate the insights needed to make products better and processes more efficient, IBM said, regarding the future use of digital twins. The future is now in the use of digital twins, for commerce is quickly gaining a foothold in everyday life. Latest AIs are able to digest a person's health profile, personal history, leisure habits, buying habits, and brand preferences and other data to create that person's digital twin. The AI can take in data on a person's individual characteristics, such as your appearance, shopping preferences, and health profile, then predict how they will look in an item of clothing, how they would answer a question in a focus group, or even be affected by a disease, the magazine explains. For example, A startup firm called AI Fashion utilizes actual photos of real fashion models to curate new AI images of them in various poses and attire for ad campaigns and e-commerce, thereby eliminating the actual need for photo shoots and the photographer, and less models overall. Fashion brand Anne Klein is trying something similar. The digital twin setup would allow for e-commerce platforms to, listen to this, digitally try on articles of clothing to see how it would look before purchasing. An Anne Klein technology chief said, consumers are looking for higher personalization while also being able to see the product in a wide variety of different environments. AI enables us to do this at scale, they said. Brox AI, another startup, has already created and stored digital twins of 27,000 persons, the TJ reports, which allows companies and researchers to use their growing database to gather analysis, trends, and data without having to run surveys and advertisements. The company says, we've built the world's first consumer insights engine based off of our proprietary syndicated data set of 1 million and growing video interviews. By combining the power of AI and real human voices, we are building the future of insights to provide better brand tracking, replace the need for ad hoc surveys to make market research as quick and easy as a Google search. Individuals who signed up were paid $20 to $150 for their digital likeness, varying on how many interviews they conducted. For example, will a 25-year-old man earning $33,000 a year in Chicago pay 8% more for a specific streaming service, the TJ says? Brock's CEO, Hamish Brocklebank, said, we know where they shop, what they buy, what they like to buy, and we've predominantly collected a lot of this information through interviewing them at great length. Unlearn is another digital twin storehouse that collects people's unique health records and habits. The company claims the information can predict how a disease might progress in any of those individuals, for example. On its website, the company says, we calculate prognostic scores for each patient in a randomized clinical trial using their digital twins. Adjusting for these scores in the analysis increases power while adhering to guidance from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and European medicines agencies. Moreover, Gartner, a research and consulting firm, predicts that in a decade, companies will have the ability to build a digital human for each of their customers. But consumer perceptions and attitudes may form a backlash against brands if terminology, data, and use cases aren't handled with care, Gartner and analyst Marty Resnick said in a recent report. However, the TJ concludes, companies could use a detailed profile as a starting point from which to track down a specific individual and bombard that person with ads. Man, what do you think about that? Something for us to think about. His lines are coming up next. Jeff Bass here, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you all so much for your support of our new podcast, Overlooked Headlines with Jeff Bass. It's our pleasure to do what we do just for you. If you desire more headlines, then please visit our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, to get overlooked news bites, tips, alerts, and much, much more. By the way, don't forget to download a new episode of Overlooked Headlines every Tuesday. Overlooked Headlines with Jeff Bass, where we're committed to keeping you informed and inspired. Now it's time for what we call His Lines, where we take a closer look at these headlines from a biblical perspective taken from the Bible, which is God's Word. Today in our top headline, we looked at AI now generating what's called a digital twin. We just told you about that, which is virtual representation of an object or system designed to reflect a physical object accurately. This digital twin is updated from real-time data and uses what they call reasoning to help make decisions. Now, I know that many people may applaud this development as a great breakthrough in technology. They may say, just like the car replaced the horse and buggy and helped overall productivity and efficiency, that this new AI technology will do pretty much the same thing. Now, that may be true. We'll just have to wait and see. However, digital twins can also pose some serious risks, such as, first, loss of jobs. Levi Strauss is about to begin phasing out live models with AI-generated ones to cut their costs. What about security issues? Hackers could create a digital twin of an existing person, enter it into an environment, and then inject malware into the ecosystem, which would give attackers access to one's sensitive data and thus compromise the integrity of the stored data that's in that digital twin. Next, what about data collection? Gathering too much data could lead to an overflow and cluttering, which could be difficult for AI to handle. Ethical health issues could be a problem. What if developers of a digital twin for personalized healthcare services needs to identify and then address ethical risks during developmental stages? I am sure there are more pros and cons concerning this digital twin technology. But I like to turn to His Lines, words from the Bible regarding knowledge. Daniel chapter 12, verse 4 reads, "You, Daniel, keep this prophecy a secret, seal up the book until the time of the end, when many will rush here and there," and here it is, "and knowledge will increase." You see, man's quest for technology and knowing seems to increase daily. Even more, we should crave wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and it should increase so that we can be led by and live by the Word of God, the will of God, and the ways of God. As the world continues to create more and more technological ways to override God, let those of us who love God and seek to please Him live according to His Word. And I leave you with Colossians chapter 1, verses 9 through 10. "For this reason, we have always prayed for you. Ever since we heard about you, we ask God to fill you with the knowledge of His will, with all the wisdom and understanding that His Spirit gives. Then you will be able to live as the Lord wants and will always do what pleases Him. Your lives will produce all kinds of good deeds, and you will grow in your knowledge of God." Till the next time, this is Jeff Bass with Overlooked Headlines, where we're keeping you informed and inspired. Be blessed.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you've been informed and inspired. Like us, tell a friend, and connect with us via Facebook, YouTube, or email us at neveroverlooked@gmail.com. That's neveroverlooked@gmail.com. Check us out next time on Overlooked Headlines with Jeff Bass.